Hello, Matthew Williams. It's 7:41 in the morning, and we're on rant 4 out of 5. So it's getting a bit late, and I'm getting a bit cold. So it's time for comfort. Right. This next rant was requested by David, and he gave us a small donation, but every little counts, because 1,000,000 small donations would be £1,000,000. So all I have to have is 998,000. 999,999 more donations like his, and I will then be a millionaire. So anyway, you get the idea. Let's see what he was wanting. I forget now, so I'll have to go and have a look. Very professional of me. I didn't bother to find out, but yes, it's flat Earth. Flat Earth. Was there anything specifically about flat Earth that I needed to cover? Let's see. Flat Earth. Goodness, what a great subject. Please feel free to rant for however long you like, as you may cover all the points in a few minutes, or you may just start enjoying yourself and get stuck into a good old expletive-filled barrage of verbal abuse. Well, I've actually been very good so far. I don't think I've been using a lot of verbal abuse, but I shall try in this one. Flat Earth. Wow. It's a subject populated by people that have either got, I think, serious screws loose. Now, that doesn't mean that they are across the board lunatics, but on this subject there seems to be impasses in some people's logic gates. You know, these said same people can drive their cars to work, they can use their mobile phones, and talk wirelessly to people around the world, and all these technological advances, which include transport and satellites and all these things which we take for granted, which are obviously pieces of industry and science which have been brought about over the last few hundred years by intelligent people. And none of these intelligent people who have kind of brought us all these wonders have thought it necessary to warn us or inform us that, by the way, the Earth is flat. Well, I've had some people say to me, Matt, you should really look at this stuff. And I'm like, oh, really? Come on. My immediate reaction is kind of like, don't even waste my time with this shit. And usually the types of persons that are involved in this stuff are usually very insistent that you should look at this new thing, this new piece of information, because it's very different to what you think you've seen before, and we'll put the pieces together, and then maybe you'll start thinking critically and open your mind. So it's almost like as if you're being told that unless you believe in the flat Earth, you're thick. Yeah. So that's the way it comes across sometimes by these people that I would contend, in their own little way, like I say, not across the board, but in this sliver of what they believe in, are thick as shit. Fucking hell. This is bottom of the barrel material. This is the fucking dirge. I cannot believe that people are into this stupid shit. And I think that what it comes down to is that people have recently, with the internet, been opened up to information overload. Okay, now I do believe that the internet is great. I believe that YouTube is great, but with it comes the floods of bullshit. And how do you tell the good from the bad? How do you tell the good persons from the bad actors? The people who are making it up, or even if they're not making it up, they're just passing on somebody else's research as if it's their own, and they're not being critical, and they're not actually looking to see whether or not something is real or bullshit. They just accept. Now, I've experienced this time after time after time in the crop circle subject, and as I say, I always tell people crop circles is a great little melting pot, because if you get involved in crop circles and you maybe start making them, or you know the people that are making them, and you see how the information spins out of control and how things take on their own life, you know, and a story that starts can never be stopped. If you see how that mechanism works close up and, you know, directly, because you're in there, you're inside this story, if you see all that and how it works inside, say, the subject of crop circles, you can say to yourself reasonably, I see, this is how the Chinese whispers start, and this is how it gets out of control. And once it's out of control, you can never put the lid back on it, because there are always going to be those people who do not really research properly. They call themselves researchers, but what they are is they're just absorbers. They're just sponges. They just absorb information in, and when the time comes, or when they feel inclined, or when they're on a stage, you know, they get squeezed slightly like a sponge, and droplets of this information come back out. But it isn't filtered, you know. If it's dirty water went in, it's dirty water's going to come back out. Yeah, it's not filtered, even though a sponge is technically a pseudo-filter. It's usually pretty big, so the crap's going to come straight back through. Now, I have a big problem with this, because I always say to people, you know, have an open mind, look at all the possibilities. And one of the possibilities could be we are on a flat earth and we are being deluded, and it's one of the biggest conspiracies that has ever been. You know, the Freemasons must be in on it, the scientists must be in on it, you know, and even if they're not in on it, it's so carefully crafted that they wouldn't even know, you know. But I think this is where it all starts to fall apart, because this is the same sort of argument that they use with crop circles. They say, well, the reason crop circles are real is because scientists won't touch it with a barge pole, and the reason they won't touch it with a barge pole is because it's too important and too impressive and too amazing, so they stay clear of it because they have jobs and they don't want to lose their pensions and da-da-da-da-da. And that's the sort of argument you start to get, you see. It's like, oh, that's why people lie about it. There is a flat earth, but nobody's going to tell you the truth, because they're Masons, they're secret societies, they're scientists, and they get paid lots of money, and that's how they have the big houses, and all that is under threat if they tell the truth. You know, the NASA scientists, the astronauts who've been in space, the pilots who fly the aircraft around the sky, you know, yep, they're all in on it. They're all in on it because, according to the flat earthers, you know, this flat earth, you have to fly around the edges of it, and you can't go beyond, because there's either a void, and that's, you know, there's open to debate. There's either a void, or there's ice, and there's nothing, and there's something beyond. It's like Game of Thrones. There's something out there, yeah, and you can't get beyond it. So we're trapped in this little playpen, this little circle of, you know, the islands that we think are where we are. And they use arguments like, well, it takes a long time to go from A to B in an aircraft. It's like, yeah. And look, if you look at it on a map, it's very close. And then they forget the fact that the globe actually is different to a stretched map, because a stretched map, you know, parts that actually look very far apart on a stretched map, because a globe is opened out and stretched out. Yeah, so parts at the top which actually look like they're far apart on a flat map, if you put them on a globe, those parts are actually quite close, and you can pop across the North Pole to get to America, which is what the pilots do all the time. And they say, oh yes, but you can't go down the south. Oh God, I'm starting to repeat what these people are saying. It's bollocks, yeah. It's fucking bollocks, yeah. Because there's so many variables that would have to be in place. Like, as you travel, the compass would have to change. So it means that in the air, right, at different heights, the compass could be affected by something that's in the ground, some compass machine that gives out the magnetic fields. You know, now you know yourself, if you get a compass and a magnet, you can affect it from a distance, and as you move away, there's no effect. But apparently in the air, for pilots, magically they can project into the air at different heights, that the compass should be different, so that it fools the pilot into thinking that north is different, and then he flies in a different way. The fact that he actually has to measure time and his speed, yeah, means that he would kind of go, hang on, there's a bit of a conspiracy here, because I'm supposed to be going a long distance, yeah, and my compass should be moving like this as I go, pointing north as I turn, yeah, but it doesn't do that. It actually stays this way, and the distances are different, and it doesn't add up. Why doesn't it add up? Yeah, that doesn't happen, right? And you know, many people who are private pilots, myself included, you know, we understand how these systems work, and we don't question them because we've been taught how they actually work. Whereas your average flat earther usually doesn't really know how these systems work, and is just kind of working on gut instinct and something he heard off the internet that says, oh well, if you go across the horizon, this is the classic, if you go across the horizon, then because of the curve of the earth, you shouldn't be seeing maybe the base of a lighthouse, or you shouldn't be seeing a ship when it goes across the horizon. And that's absolutely true. That is exactly what happens. And they go, but it doesn't happen. That's what's supposed to happen, but it doesn't happen. And then they show you videos whereby there's like a place in Canada which you look at a city across a lake, and it's so many miles away, and you should be able to... Oh, right, so I've given him 10 minutes now. He's getting good coverage here. You know, you should be able to see the base of the buildings, but you can but with it being that far away, you should be only seeing halfway up the buildings or 3/4 of the way up the buildings, but you can see the base. You can see the base of the buildings. So therefore it must be not true. The earth must be flat, because if you can see the base, then these calculations are wrong. What they forget to tell you is that with heat lenses air. Yeah, it's the same thing that causes mirages in deserts. Yeah, and you look at a hot desert, and basically it looks like water. Yeah, and things that are underneath a certain level actually get hidden. You can't see them until you actually get really close, and they suddenly pop out because they're hidden by this curvature. So guess what? If you have a city which is way over across the horizon, which you shouldn't be able to see the bottom, if it's hot, if it's the summer, the curvature of the earth is negated by the lensing effect, mirroring and pulling up things that are over the horizon. So guess what? If you do the same experiment to look at the base of the buildings, and you do it in the winter, you can only see halfway up the buildings or to the top of the buildings. But if you do it in the summer, you can see all the way to the base. So which piece of evidence do you think the flat earthers use? Yeah, they'll use the one from the summer, because that meets what they're interested in, and they'll ignore and don't want to look at the one that says, no, in the winter when it's cold, the effect is there and it's correct. So there's all sorts of things which actually bring back the truth of why things are the way they are, and things aren't, you know, just because you think, you know, gravity is X, because in the calculations X equals, and when you work out gravity, well, of course you have to take into consideration where you are on the earth, because gravity is different depending on how high you are, depending on which part of the earth, whether you're on the equator and it's further out, or whether you're on the top, you know, and how the speed you're spinning and things like this. So gravity is different. So all these things have to be taken into consideration when doing proper maths. And you know, the Coriolis effect, which I've experienced, water goes down through the plug hole, and as it goes down, it will spiral one way in the northern hemisphere. If you go to the southern hemisphere, it will spiral the other way. Now, some people will say, oh, no, that's just the spiral of the plug hole. They put that in the plug hole. And to a certain degree, yes, that can be true. But there are ways that you can prove that the spin is different if you take out any factors, like there might be a certain spin going on in the design of the plug hole. Yeah, if you take those factors out and you do clinical experiments, you can show that yes, the water spins one way in the north and it spins the other way in the south, because that's the way the Earth is spinning. Gravitational Coriolis effect, you know, producing centrifugal force. It's a weak force, but it is a force. It's a force, and it can be measured, just like compasses. They can be measured, you know. And what I don't understand with all this flat Earth stuff, and I'm going to finish now because I've got 15 minutes going on this. What I don't understand with all this flat Earth stuff is, you know, yeah, we've all seen The Matrix, and yeah, we could all be living inside a computer simulation. And, you know, yes, they're great movies and it's great sci-fi, and, you know, but let's be serious. Yeah, it would require such a large amount of people to be in on the conspiracy. And what does it say about the stars? Why do the stars change when you go to different countries? Why are the stars different? Yeah, because that would mean that somebody's actually putting different projections in the sky in different places. And, you know, the sun wouldn't go down over the edge of the Earth. It would be in one spot, you know. And why can't these flat earthers understand this stuff? They don't want to understand it. And I think that it comes down to wishful thinking of weak-minded individuals who do not want to look into the science and would rather believe the Matrix-style fantasy that, you know, oh, it was very convincing in the movie, so therefore it must be true. Yeah, and that's about as far as the research goes. I'm yet to be convinced by anything I've seen. I usually want to throw something at the monitor, you know, when I'm watching some of these flat Earth videos, because they break so many rules, they ignore so much science, and they just go for the thing they want to prove is real. And that's all they're interested in. They're not interested in proving it's not real or researching anything else. They just come along with some interesting anecdotal Chinese whispery bollocks fucking stuff, and they say the Earth is flat. Well, I've heard the Earth is hollow as well. And you know, Antarctica, maybe there is something in Antarctica. I don't know. Maybe there is, but we're still on a circular Earth, unless, you know, all these scientists who know their stuff are just fooling themselves. You know, when they stare up into the sky and they look at the stars and they look at the way that the Earth is spinning and the perturbation, and they do all the calculations and all that sort of stuff, is just fooling these very intelligent people. That is just a projection. It's projections, not really there. It's, you know, it's a flat plane above us, so therefore, you know, oh God, it's just so weak. It's so weak. Anyway, that's my rant on that. It's fucking bollocks. So yeah, fucking flat Earth, forget it. It's like chemtrails, I'm afraid. Don't get me started on that one. Yeah, chemtrails. It's like the Emperor's new clothes. The less you can see it, the more it must be real. Yeah, anyway, so thanks very much. And now we're on to rant 5. So, Christ almighty, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. Can you withstand this? Thanks.